So as traders, we have to wear multiple hats. We have to be able to clearly define a methodology for ourselves, one, and then we have to be able to convert that methodology into technical evidence in the form of analysis. And then we need to be able to also bring that to a place where we say we have a trading plan and we have an edge that we want to act on. So I always like to, whenever I get asked from members about questions around the charts, I always try to frame it into that trade planning context with starting with what's that outlook period. So you saw today when Slim introduced this segment, we have an outlook period. It's very important to know what outlook period that you're looking at because that will drive the time frames that you're using for your information. And then once you have your charts, time frames based on your outlook period, you want to determine your directional bias. So you have to have a methodology that can help you determine directional bias. And then we want to be able to produce key levels. Those would be both our projections as well as our reevaluations that let us know that the analysis that we did is likely changing, and we need to reevaluate that potential position that we have on, whether that would be take it off or lessen it up. And then once you've gone through your analysis, you want to make sure that you actually have a tradable edge. And then from there, what are the signals that suggest that trade setup is a go? And obviously, you want to always make sure that your risk and money management rules are in place. Okay, so that's sort of the framework for it. Now let's look at WYNN here. On the weekly chart, you can see here that we made a cycle low here in towards the end of December, and it came a little bit early. And previously, it was in a negative overall pattern structure here as it came in. However, as I'm looking at this now, this current price action with this early low that formed, there's several positive indications that are generating a overall bullish or long side bias here. First, we're in a rising phase that you can see here still on the weekly cycle, and it is performing fairly well at this time. The momentum indicator is positive at this time. And in terms of the minor weekly cycle structure or pattern structures here, you can see that we've taken out some of these prior highs. So overall, that gives me a further confidence or conviction that at this point, we have a positive shape that is developing in WYNN on this intermediate time frame, and not looking for a real huge move here in terms of upside, but looking for some upside, and I'll get to those levels here in just a second. So that's the weekly chart. Now I'm going to go over to the daily chart, and that's important to look at because we also have positive momentum here. The slim ribbon shifted positive here. It was about 1220 or so, 1218, 1219, and has held that positive overall momentum since. We put a recent cycle low, a bottom in place here in about mid-January, and now are in a new rising phase on the daily cycle as well. So we have rising phases, so we have some alignments going on between the two time frames, which is always important as you're looking at things. So if I line this up with the weekly chart on the left, the daily on the right, you can see that there's alignments that we have right now in terms of that cycle timing. So, I'm pulling together all that technical evidence, and just in the last couple of days, we've got above that 78.6 to further confirmations of bullish indications. And again, there are no certainties. There's only the odds, and all you're trying to do is put that technical evidence together so that you can suggest to yourself that you have an overall edge. All right, so now let's go back and let's look at our projections on the upside. We're looking at over the next 3 to 8 weeks that we would get up into this projection zone up here, first testing that 61.8 intermediate fib around 100.75 and getting up close to about 103 is what I'm looking for at this point. And if we got a breach of that prior cycle low, that would require reevaluation of this projection zone, but not necessarily eliminate the long side bias until I would see a close below the 61.8. This would especially be the case if we can break out again above this prior cycle peak. We had one breakout in the prior cycle. One more would likely suggest that this low that occurred is a very important basing cycle. So a pullback would then suggest that we shouldn't break down and that we would see then another attempt higher, whether that happens in this cycle or the next one. So that's the the overall look there in terms of directional bias, key levels, reevaluation levels. And then you want to be looking for signals that suggest the trade is a go. Now that is up to each one of us to determine what those are. Typically, I like to look for momentum confirmation signals, price breakouts predominantly. So we had that cycle low that occurred, and today you can see the reversal scout just starting to turn up. So that would be an indication that the continuation of this rising phase is likely in motion, and this could be a signal that would suggest a trade is a go. Again, all depends on your trading style, but this would be one that I'd be looking for. And then I would jump down into that shorter duration time frame. See if I can find my multiple time frame grid here that our level 4 members have access to. Essentially, you can plug in any symbol you want. And we have 4 time frames here: weekly, daily, 2 hour, and 15 minute. And this is our dashboard for really getting a quick sense at a glance of our proprietary indicators. And you can see here again, as I pointed out on that daily chart, you can see the reversal scout just turning up, and also on the 2 hour chart. So we'd be looking for these 2 hour chart to continue to show positive momentum. So if there was a pullback and it went neutral and negative in the 2 hour, as long as we stayed positive in the daily and the weekly, those would be some other opportunities to look for that advance was likely continuing.